must welcome my dear music teacher, Brenda Berger, who's been so kind to be involved with me for my second podcast. And she's been my music teacher for 20 years, which is our relationship has lasted that long, and we've just had fun making music together. And I really think just having spent time with you talking about things for so many years, I know that music just pervades your being. And you were born musical, and somehow that has been the theme of your life.
That's right.
Yeah. But Brenda's had so many avenues of expressing her music. And I'm sure we're going to cover a lot of that today. And also Brenda has pursued art in her adult years and has magnificent pieces which are sold. She's been in galleries, one in London for naive art. And I hope we can spend time just celebrating you and your amazing spirit that has just shone throughout all this time. And you've said this yourself. You said you've had a steadfast spirit. You've turned up and you've worked and you've worked, and you've got so many students who've benefited from you. And so much more than that. I mean, you've got theses out there on childhood development, which will be there forever. And again, so much more than that. You're a mother of two grown-up boys.
I've been steeped in the arts since I was very little. I went to a nursery school where we always play acting and dressing up and so on and so on. And I started playing the piano very young. I did it because I loved to do it. And I did have lessons at that stage with a fabulous teacher who stayed my teacher right through to the end of school. I was very blessed to have her, Doris Anders.
Yes.
And I was encouraged correctly in every way with my music.
Wow.
And in primary school, I won the Madeleine Exley bursary for music. And when I was very young, I was about 7, maybe 8, my father got invited to have me play on the radio. There was a program called Young South Africa, and we used to drive up to Grahamstown, where I would play in the studio. That was great excitement, and I was broadcast nationally. Thereafter, music was my passion, always was, plus all sorts of things, drama and acting and ballet and speech and tap dancing, always in the arts.
Wow.
And my late father was always in theatre, and I just assumed that everybody's father was in theatre. It didn't occur to me that maybe mine was different. And I grew up with that, knowing about theatre, knowing about the arts, music, and being taken by my mom and my aunt to the art galleries in Port Elizabeth, saw Henry Moore's exhibitions when I was young, and then as a little one still in primary school, my mother took me to all the concerts of the great musicians that used to visit, like Yehudi Menuhin and Dame Myra Hess, and all the top people, Michelangelo, the top musicians that ever came to this country.
Wow.
And my mother was quite proud of the fact that I had done well already, and used to take me backstage and introduce me as my daughter, the pianist.
Wow.
And I had that marvelous beginning of being encouraged and totally supported throughout.
Let me read out this Distractions and the Human Crowd, about your paintings. These paintings are a statement about human relationship that occur in temporal life, a world of people who form part of a crowd and pursue earthly distractions. Temporal life is a place where man might impinge upon man, where man needs to perform, where man needs to observe, where man needs applause. That's quite a deep statement. Yeah, I don't know if you want to expand on that a little bit.
Well, I think it's the same as Ubuntu. We aren't human unless we have people that mean something in our lives. We all need those things. we want to be recognized. We want companionship. I think that's what it was all about, that we love an audience. Children love to perform in front of their parents.
Yes.
And so on. Or you always need a concert hall, there's people to applaud you. So everybody needs this in your life. We aren't alone. We shouldn't be alone. It's too hard alone. And we learn from other people. You know, somebody will advise you this way, somebody that way, but you're learning all the time.
Yes.
And that's what life is. And that was all about the crowds that are always gathering for whatever it is.
Yes.
It's just
beautiful.
that we are actually only human because of other people. We need all sorts of people in our lives. And I've been read some books that I enjoyed by Mitch Albom, an American, and he talks about the people in your inner circle and then maybe your outer circle. And the inner circle are the people that are, he calls your band. Those are your band, that belong to your band. Those are the people you need to lean on, whether it's emotionally or spiritually or socially. The outer circle are acquaintances maybe, but we all need people at different levels to be part of our band. And that's what it's about. And that was that exhibition.
Wow.
Was about that.
Wow.
That we all of them, all those pictures, paintings I did in that time, was that people need that. And it was always about crowds watching other people doing something,
Yes.
or being there, or clapping
Yes.
for them,
Yes.
or applauding them.
Yes. Yes.
And,
Wow.
and that's quite a powerful statement.
That's a very powerful statement. Yes, I've taken pictures. So,
Yes.
So yes, Brenda, do you want to tell us a bit about the sculpture when your husband died that you created?
Yes, it was such a bleak time for me. I'd moved here, I was all alone, loved the house but didn't know anybody. And then my beloved children went to live in Australia. It was very tough. And it's just from my gut, it's actually not looking at a picture and saying, well, this is so pretty, I must do this, you know. You've got to have courage to do that.
You do have to have courage. Once
Amazing
again,
courage.
they say something.
They do say something,
I
but
mean, what did you call them? Dead?
man alive, you're half dead.
Man alive, you're half dead.
Because in the middle of
Yes.
life is death.
Yes.
And
yes.
I had to express that,
yes.
you know.
Yes.
When my
Yeah.
late husband was 55, he was very
No,
young.
that's very young.
And I was
Yes.
left alone. I was very young
Yes.
with
Yes.
2 young sons.
Yes.
It wasn't an easy road.
Yes. No. Absolutely.
So I had to express that. I do express what I see or what I think or what I feel in a philosophical way as well. And often it's about, what's the word, imbalance in society. I did a lot of political work as well. When
Maybe.
Steve Biko was arrested.
Yeah. Do you want to share maybe that one that you did with when Steve Biko was
that
arrested?
is an etching. That's an
That's
etching.
an etching.
And
of that.
I
yeah.
actually ended up doing a sculpture of it as well.
Oh.
And that sculpture was done in 3D, like with cells and frames and everything.
That
Because
I
he was in
haven't
solitary
seen.
no, it's not here. He was in
Oh.
solitary confinement.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up donating that to the museum on Robben Island.
Oh, did you?
I donated that.
Wow.
And so my work has gone around.
Oh. Brenda did this beautiful piece on the release of Nelson Mandela. There's such joy in this piece. And she made a point to celebrate his release by this beautiful picture.
Okay, I'm going to play The Entreating Child by Robert Schumann. It's part of a series of small pieces that he wrote for children, and I'm going to say it's a miniature. They are delightful pieces, and this one I played myself as a child, so I'm going to play it now again. And Schumann was born in Zwickau, Saxony in 1810. He died in Bonn in 1856. And he was classified as a romantic. He did express his feelings.
thought we would include Brenda's school song, just not all of it, just a short little bit of it, which is "Nothing in life is to be won without trying, strength of the body and vigor of soul." And what was the name of the school that you went
Collegiate
to?
Girls
Collegiate
High.
Girls High. Yeah.
Well, collegiate, junior, I did both schools.
Yeah.
Primary school and high school.
The fact that you've had to really draw on that motto, especially in the last 3-4 years, and the vigor of, I would say, mind that you've had to have with what you have had to endure, get through, and come out the other side. I don't know, I'll leave it up to you what you want to share of your journey the last 3-4 years.
I would say it's been the hardest part of my life.
Yeah.
To actually go for a regular checkup and discover you have cancer. And I no sooner recovered from that after having surgery, and luckily I was fine. Then I go for another checkup and it was back again. So that was further surgery. So that started in 2017, and it was a spiral that everything started going wrong health-wise. So I was bitten by a tick at the end of 17 and was nearly at death's door. I was in ICU. Nobody thought I was going to pull through. And I think sheer determination and not giving in and wanting to live and wanting to get better. 11 days in hospital, hundreds of pills, hundreds of tests. Eventually I came out as weak as anything. And with a lot of love and care from friends and family, and my son from Australia who flew out, Gary, who was so fantastic, and his special care, and Wayne here who was caring and notifying people. I just had so much support, and I did come through, and Gary organised carers for me. It was the most difficult time in my life.
Yes.
And I did come through it.
Amazing.
And then I just got up one day and I said, that's it, I've come through, I've had a terrible year, and now I want to visit the children in Australia, which I did. And then I started turning the corner. And then it went pretty well from there. But it was all strength of my vigour and strength and strong-minded to keep going and not give in to anything. And I just did it. I bounced back.
Amazing. Because I think we were just talking now about that you never believed you would die.
No. And I wasn't prepared to even entertain the thought.
You didn't even entertain the thought.
No,
and I think
everyone else did.
And
they
I think
were all coming
that's
to say goodbye to me.
That's telling. Your
And
determination.
I was not prepared to give into this.
Yeah.
Whatever it took, I was going to get going. And I did. And as soon as I'm better, then I was out walking again, determined that my dogs don't suffer. I did get all the help I needed, which was important in my situation.
Yes, of course.
And I proved that I am a survivor, really.
Yes.
But as I say, it's a lot of strength of purpose and wanting to do things and not giving up. Because I think if you give up, you've lost the battle anyway.
You have. I mean, you said you were so weak you couldn't walk.
I couldn't walk. I had to physiotherapy. No.
I mean, to
I
come
was
back
poisoned
from that.
by the tick.
Wow.
The tick bite.
Wow.
There was nothing that was working properly at that time, you know. So
Wow.
it took a lot of energy to get better. And then once I got going, that was it. I was going like a Boeing, you know. And back to what I love doing, working with people. And I'm very lucky because I'm surrounded by the love and care of all the students that have worked with me and passed through my hand. So I'm very blessed.
I think your gratitude,
I'm very grateful.
you know, I think it's absolutely true. Gratitude just grows. You know, grows love, grows
It does.
everything.
It does.
You know.
And I work, when I work with children or adults too, it's not just teaching them notes on the piano. I get involved with their personal lives. I get involved with their problems. I'm there for them as well. I listen, I counsel if necessary. I get involved on every level. And I do my best for them as if they were my own children. So that's how I am. And that I don't just do a quick fix and then I'm done. I don't do that. And I think that's what people do appreciate.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, I can attest having been your student.
Should we speak about you a little bit now?
Oh.
and just to
yes.
that Kim has been a special person in my life ever since I started private teaching. She called me one day, and the next thing, here was this lovely person, musical, talented, able, and very keen to learn every aspect, and was absolute pleasure and joy to work with Kim. And so our relationship grew and grew and grew.
Very lucky.
I'm very lucky to have had you, and you very lucky to, I suppose, to be with me.
Absolutely.
And we developed a very strong bond.
Yes.
And Kim sang in my ladies' choir that we had. We've had great fun and wonderful times together, and in all the soirees that I put on. And then I think back to my late dad, and I think, gosh, I'm just like him. He was putting on all these shows and theatre things, and I'm doing the same. I've done it for years. And Kim's always there to help me, always there to support me. Even now during lockdown, which is so fantastic of her to come in and be there for me in case of anything. So Kim, I can never thank you enough.
Oh, Brenda, that means a lot.
And so before I get teary, I just want to say that you're an absolute star. He's a present conductor, and J.P. Gabriels was studying for his doctorate. And I also had Marion Lewin. She's one of the top cellists in the country. She was at the one concert. Marion Lewin and her group, and Tertia Fisser-Downey, they're all the top musicians played here.
I'm just going to add to what Brenda said. She started these soirees in her Newlands Music Centre in 2001 and had her last soiree last year, where she actually sprained her ankle and her ligaments were torn on the day of the soiree, and yet she continued through and played the piano despite. It's just a survivor spirit that comes through. We had beautiful times together, singing at different venues, and the name of our group was the Conspirator Singers, and they were wonderful times. Brenda is just about to play a piece by Gabriel Grovlet, a French composer born in Lille, 1879, died in Paris, 1944. There are 8 miniatures pieces in this suite called Images. Poems were set to music by Tristan Klingzor. Various images were portrayed, such as puppets, dolls, swings, and horses. And Brenda has chosen to play the intimate final piece, a prayer to baby Jesus with his satin robes in a crib. I'm sure you're going to love this, and Brenda and I particularly have enjoyed this piece over the last month.
started.
Okay.
And then she recognized, I think, that I was very talented in those days, and she sort of nurtured me. So I went right through primary school with her, did all my grades then, start the grades, then got into high school, and then there were very few of us. We did music as a subject for grade 12. And Doris took me right through. So it became a very personal relationship. She never had children, and she never married, and she lived in the boarding house at the school. So I was very spoilt. I'd get little cookies for presents and little gifts and things for birthdays, and I was very spoilt. And then it developed into a family friendship. She became friendly with my mom and my aunt, and you know, it was a whole lovely friendship. And of course the friendship remained. I've got all Doris's letters still that she wrote me when I started getting degrees, when I started graduating with a bachelor's, music, whatever, and she was always there behind me.
That's wonderful.
Right to the end of her day.
Sure.
Yeah, she died suddenly in Port Elizabeth.
Yeah, that's sad. But yes,
she was an amazing,
a huge influence.
A huge influence, and she. What was so wonderful about her, that she encouraged a lot of emotional expression.
I was going to ask about that.
It wasn't It wasn't just playing the notes. She phrased everything. We listened to every little nuance. She was meticulous with that. And often I was very, very. I used to move a lot, and I was always swaying with the music. I was so intensely involved with it.
That's wonderful.
And she always used to say, "If you don't sit still, I'm going to tie you to the chair." Then I had to learn. You can't sway around as you play. It's not professional. Doesn't look good. Not professional. So I had to contain it, and not start moving around with the music. You know. But I did dance as well, so ballet as well as I was little.
Yes, you said.
And then I loved moving with the music.
Yes.
Ballet was my one love too.
Oh, wow.
So I had to make a choice when I got to high school.
Right.
Was it going to be ballet or was it going to be... But I didn't have the height for ballet.
Okay.
So far better that I stayed with music.
Oh, but you loved them equally at the time.
I loved them equally, yeah.
And it's also interesting that you continued with movement in your... You've done so many childhood classes, and you know, you trained me in your sort of movement method of teaching. So you've continued the movement. You haven't stopped.
I never stopped with
You've
that.
never stopped the movement.
No, because that's based on Emile Jacques Dalcroze, and his method is that the child's body is the instrument. You can't teach a young child fine motor coordination.
Yes.
So the child has to move.
Yes.
And then when I was lecturing at Berkeley House Teachers College, we devised a method. It became the Berkeley House method. And that was the children should have 8 movements per class.
Oh, brilliant.
Which was skipping, running, trotting, jumping, swaying, galloping, and walking or marching, whatever. So we used to do those movements, and I would put one finger on the piano and the children would know what I was intending. And the big joy of it is that they were free to move in whichever way they wanted to.
Yes.
Nobody would say that's right, that's wrong.
Yes.
That's the best part of working with young children.
Yes.
You don't have to correct them.
Yes. Yeah,
and
I
they're
agree.
particularly creative.
Oh, they are.
They are. So it was an absolute joy for me.
Yes.
And the preparation was heavy.
Yes.
It was a lot of preparation.
Yes.
To be sure that you had enough to keep them going without having too many disciplinary problems.
Yes.
Which I managed to get under my belt. I managed to control that perfectly. And I'm not exactly a disciplinarian.
Neither am I, naturally.
So when the behaviour got out of hand, one had to have tricks up your sleeve, you know, but I managed fine. And then, of course, it is age-specific.
Yes.
You have to do certain things with the 3 to 4 year old, the 4 to 5, and the 5 to 6.
Yes.
It's all different.
Yeah.
It's got to be what they say, didactically appropriate.
Oh, didactically. I
That
haven't
means
heard that
teaching
word.
has got to be appropriate.
Oh, okay.
You can't just flounder around. You've got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's quite a skill.
Yeah, it's a precise art.
And I did it for such a long time with so many different themes and ideas and props and puppets and music. And I would go into class like with my bag of tricks, you know,
Like Mary Poppins.
Yeah, Mary Poppins, sliding flutes and Jack in the Boxes that pop up, and but always it was always musically related.
Yes.
With every action and songs and things that accompany that.
Yes.
And if it was animals, it was how they looked, how they walked, and we dramatized a lot as well.
And you also, I mean, you love drama too.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've brought all of that
into the lesson.
You've brought all of
we
that
had drama, music, whatever, even
Mm.
drawing to the music at the end of the lesson, art as well. And working together in a group or working individually, exploring space.
Yes.
I mean, I could write another doctorate on early childhood as well. Don't you? Do another one.
Just from all your experiences.
Yes, exactly.
Put together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's been a very interesting ride. I never thought I'd ever go into that.
Yeah.
I really never did.
Really.
But when I was teaching and then I was doing demonstrations, the one friend said, well, why don't you go further and do something with it? And it started. It was like an idea that developed.
Germinated.
And then it started with a master's degree, as I said, I think before. And then I said, I'm never going further. This was it. That's enough. And then my prof phoned me. He said, so now? He said, on to the doctorate. And I said, no, I've just done enough. I've had enough. But I did. I did it. And I don't know how I did it, but I did it.
No, I mean, again, it just shows that what I started with, that steadfast spirit. One step at a time, not giving up, not giving up.
I never gave up.
And you had 2 young children.
And lots of problems in between.
Yes.
I mean, all sorts of issues.
Yes, exactly. So
I just set aside time every day, like it was late in the evening, that I would do my research or write what I had to write. And then early morning, maybe 6 o'clock before going off to get everybody ready and then go off to lecture.
Sure.
It wasn't an easy ride.
No, that's a really dedicated mindset.
Really, was determined.
You were determined. Yeah,
I was determined.
Yeah.
And really, I loved it more than anything. Besides anything, I like researching. I love researching.
No.
So it's been a very interesting journey.
Wow.
And as I said, my professor that I had, he said, you're doing this for your own edification. It's for your own growth.
It's always got to be yourself first,
yes.
I believe. To know yourself, to get to know yourself so you can give something to others.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not that it's being used to full advantage, what I've written, because there were the logistics of the apartheid era when I started. Everything was under separate education departments.
Sure.
It was really
sad.
terrible. A very sad state of affairs. And there wasn't much cross-cultural music going on.
Sure.
So
and you tried to bring that about.
I tried to bring that about in the multicultural.
Which is quite amazing at that time.
Started introducing songs from other cultures and all of that. And then I even transcribed music from Asian cultures, where I had to listen, not understand the language, but basically knew what they were singing about.
Yes.
And then try and do it again in music notation because it wasn't notated.
Yes.
I did a lot of that. I had to.
Yeah, you had to for your doctorate. It wasn't done before.
I had to actually write down songs one was called Nila Nila Vava, Come to Me, to the Moon, and that sort of stuff. And I did it. I transcribed it all.
That's hard work.
And then that got used in friends of mine. Denise de Kock, she wrote a book on children's music, and she used that.
That's wonderful.
My music got used.
Useful.
That I used. It became useful.
Yeah.
If you're trying to do like a multicultural approach in a classroom, because it always was the Western culture was more dominant. So one had to try and elevate it. My Paxonos, my prof used to say, it's supposed to be a third Western, a third Asian, and a third African.
Explain that.
Well, you can't just have a Western culture in a class. You need to bring in other groups, other cultures that are in the class.
No, you have to. I
mean, if you have children of Asian religions, they're singing different songs for their festivals. So I've included all of that in the doctorate.
And it's so good for all the other children to be exposed to that.
That's it.
Yeah.
To the Festival of Light, to Diwali, and all of that. That others need to be exposed.
Yes.
And the African songs with the African cultures is also very interesting.
Yes.
And the children need to know about it.
Yeah.
So it became all-encompassing.
Oh, excellent.
It's very interesting.
No, it's excellent. Yeah, sure.
Because when I started the research, it really was one culture. We were only doing Western music. There was no influence of any other sort.
And actually, Western is just a segment of all music.
Exactly.
You know?
Well,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So
I'm
it's
so
been
glad you did
most
that.
interesting ride.
Yes.
And when I was in the UK years back doing my research,
Yes.
I went to various schools that were English, so-called English schools, but then had been taken over by Asian communities. And they pulled out all the stops for me to be there and observe.
Wow.
And that was really fascinating.
Yeah, no.
I spent a few days in the schools.
Yeah.
I had to do that, was part of my field work.
Okay.
I had to do that.
Yes, yes.
And that was fascinating to me.
And to just expose yourself to all these different cultures.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think in this country we were actually impoverished by not being able to listen to it or involve ourselves with it. We weren't allowed to.
Yes.
I'd never really heard much African music. And I love some of it.
Some of it is absolutely beautiful. Yeah, no.
They're lovely groups that I ended up playing with the children, letting them hear them, doing all sorts of things, you know, exposing them to other things.
Yeah.
So that's the studies that I've done.
It's amazing.
And that all links in the music, art, theatre, drama, it's all linked in with me.
Yes, because I was going to say, maybe this is a good time to lead into the fact that your art has a political edge.
Some of it.
And maybe just chat about that one piece that you did that had a political edge.
Yes.
I've got the picture, so I'll show the people who watch the podcast while we chat about it.
Yes,
if you like.
That was the one that I titled "She Can't Cook, but She's Good with the Children." Yes, that was at the height of apartheid, and I was invited into an exhibition which was called "The Incisive Eye."
Okay.
And it just happened. I don't know how it happened, but I did it. It's the lady in the colours of the old national colours, and then the lady in the new colours of the new South Africa. It was at that time of things happening. And there's a lady looking after a baby. It's an African setting, but the two women are gossiping and talking about, well, she's very good, but she can't cook.
Yes.
She can only look after the children.
Yes,
as people used to look down on domestic work and that sort of thing.
Yes.
So it's quite tongue in the cheek about that. But it's a very interesting piece, I think. If I say it myself, it's a nice one.
No, definitely, and giving that perspective of how the nannies might feel.
Yes, exactly.
Rather than how just how the privileged people feel.
Exactly.
So it's almost giving that perspective through. So that's very powerful.
It's a powerful one.
Yeah.
It's sort of seeing, it was like demeaning, spoken with the two ladies in a more demeaning manner. The title says it all.
Yeah. So you did. Was the gallery? The place where it was displayed called the Incisive Eye? Was the name of your painting?
No. The Incisive Eye was the title of the exhibition.
Okay. So what is the name of your
the painting is called "She Can't Cook, but
Oh,
she's good with the children."
Okay, she can't cook, but she's
They're
good with
gossiping
the
about the maid.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
As if a maid is a right. Nobody has a right.
Yes.
You're privileged if you have it, but
Yes.
a person, but you don't have a right.
Yes, exactly. No, that's wonderful that you were prepared to, face the political climate, face the culture, and do things that were so honest.
Really
Yeah,
aware of it,
no,
'cause
that's
I
amazing.
think I grew up seeing some very unpleasant things, even as a child,
Yes.
where the people had to carry passes and
Yes.
very unpleasant things.
Yes, and you recounted to me, which would probably be interesting for the audience, how your father was involved in one of the very first sort of Xhosa plays. I think he produced it, and he even wrote. I don't know if he wrote it, and then you were involved in visiting.
Yes.
During the rehearsals.
Yes, I've got the programs and that. I don't know if you think we should show that.
Well, I can take pictures and show them during the podcast, so the audience can see.
My father produced a lot of theatre, he was always invited to do something for a reason, whether it was mostly charity. He never charged anybody anything. And he produced some wonderful shows. And then the one that became well known was called Shantytown.
Okay.
And that was done at the height of apartheid.
Yes.
And it was a musical, but telling the story of the
Yes.
Shanties people living like that. And he put it on at the Crispin Hall in
Okay.
Port Elizabeth.
Yes.
And he auditioned certain black musicians
Yes.
that travelled
Yes.
from far to come and
Yes.
audition for him.
Yes. Yes.
And in the end, he chose a few, and I've got the program. And then he was rediscovered now, 2 years ago, by Ava Markman in Port Elizabeth, who went to the archives and found that he'd done so many theatres, plays, and so many shows, and he was very interested in this one, Shantytown. And that one was an absolute hit.
Definitely.
So, as I say, my dad's influence was more passive. He didn't realise how much he was influencing me.
Yes. Yes.
And my
Yeah.
mom's was more active. She was like with me there through it all, you know, having costumes made for the ballet concerts
Yes.
and the tap
Yes.
dancing and
Wow.
speech things
Wow.
and speech exams and Stetfords and a million arty things. It was always arty things. But anyway, very interesting background.
Very, very. And now I'm going off on another tack with another of your art pieces, which is, I'm going to hold it up for people. We're going to have another picture, don't worry. This is just to show that it was in the Argus ages ago. Wrong words. In the Argus, not ages ago. That's
It is. It is.
But maybe you can describe it a bit. What is it called? You said it had a French title.
It's Le Chic Coiffeur. It's a fan of detail
I
there.
love it.
It's very funny, actually. It's actually quite funny.
It is, but it's also quite like poignant in a way.
It is. It's
got
the
both.
story of my
It's
life.
got both. It's got both.
Yes, the drama with the
Yes.
hairdos, always, you know. But anyway,
Oh, no.
so that's the story.
Yeah. I wanted to, because your music lessons are pretty unique. So I wanted to find another quote that you gave me.
Which lessons are we talking about?
I'm talking about in general. I'm
Yes,
talking about in general with your students right now.
Yes,
I'm talking
yes.
about the fact that you said to me that things don't have to be perfect, but musically it has to be felt. So in other words, yes, you are aiming for precision, but if it's only about precision and not feeling the music,
No, that's no good.
you see,
can't,
and that's
no.
why I've really enjoyed being your student, because you've allowed me to explore the feeling of the piece.
That's it. It's much more important because, Doris Anders, my teacher, always used to say, anybody can play the notes. It's like learning to type, but it's how you interpret it. It's that feeling that you put into it. Music is about emotion.
Yes.
It's all very well. Yes, you can play this and that quickly,
Yes.
but how's it getting to you?
Yes.
It's got to appeal somewhere
Yes.
to you.
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's the thesis I did my bachelor's degree on. That was what is emotion? How does it? Is it what you feeling, or is it what the composer was trying to intend? What is it actually?
It's interesting. That's very interesting.
It was very interesting,
Yeah.
and it does come back to that. Every person has a certain standard of music that they've absorbed somewhere. Some do, some don't. Some have never experienced music. So it depends where you're coming from, how you interpret something,
Yes.
whether you like it or you don't.
Yes.
If I
Yes.
put on something, say some Asian music that you've never heard and you really don't relate to it, you may not enjoy it. But on the other hand, if you've heard it a few times and you listen again, you'll say, oh, that is quite interesting.
Yeah.
And
Give it
that's
a
about
second
every
chance.
piece of music. So it also depends where you're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then there is, of course, what the composer intended. What were they portraying? It's very important to know what this is all about.
Yeah, what I feel you've always done for me with pieces of music, you've always tried to sort of pull out the reasons it was composed, like the story behind
Exactly.
it, so that I can imagine that
Exactly.
with it.
Exactly.
You always have done that.
I've done that.
You've always
and
done
I always
that.
Demonstrate.
Yes, you
I'll
do.
demonstrate
Yes.
clearly, and I'll do it again and again and again
Yes.
until you get
Patience. Yes.
it. It's a difficult thing that, because it's an automatic response for me that I will feel it. So when some people, they'll play and they don't feel it, I find that very difficult. And then I try, but then I have to do it more intellectually.
Yes.
And say that should be a bit softer, that should be a bit louder.
Yes.
They don't automatically get it.
Yes.
That it's telling you, it's emotionally telling you this.
Yes.
Yeah, it's quite tricky, that.
Yeah, no, I don't know why I'm comparing it to karate, because also for karate, music has always been a part of me, but karate, although it felt like the right thing to do, sometimes I get quite mechanical. So getting to the feeling level of karate is also a long journey for me.
Oh, right.
You know, it's quite interesting.
I didn't know there is a feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there is.
Okay,
There is
sure
a feeling.
there is.
There is a feeling.
Yes, I would say that learning the notes, the notation, learning to play them, these are all the aspects of music, getting the rhythm right, the pitch right, the phrasing right, whatever it is. There's a whole lot of things to do. And then the aesthetic side comes after. That lifts the whole thing up. That is what the art is.
That is what the art is.
That little third portion there.
Yes.
The other is the other part.
Yes.
So, but the groundwork you have to do.
You have to do the groundwork.
And then the other little part, there are not many who actually get that.
Yes.
Where the music would actually make you cry, it's so magnificent.
Yes. And they almost just have transcended everything to just absolutely be in the music.
You are just taking that.
Because they've done all the work.
They've done
all the other work.
That's it.
You know.
And you need to get to that level, which is the highest level, to actually perform. And if you're not able to do that level, then you're still at the much lower level, then that doesn't augur well for performance.
Yeah.
To be able to perform, you have to have all that intellect at the bottom, knowing what you're doing, the cognitive, and then you need the emotional and the affective at the top level.
Sure.
It's a lot to contend with.
It's quite something.
And the technique to be able to execute the whole thing.
Yeah.
You need all of it.
Wow.
And I always say to parents, you need to be an all-rounder to actually do music properly. Otherwise you are learning. You need to be an all-rounder because you have to be very good academically, intellectually and musically to be able to achieve the whole thing.
Yes. And even being willing to put in those hours of practice.
Yes, it
like
takes
you said,
a lot of
6
practice.
hours of practice a day.
Absolutely.
You know?
As a student, I used to do 3 hours in the afternoon after lectures and then 3 in the evening. Wow. At least.
Wow.
At least.
Wow.
But for such love.
No, I know you loved it. And I'm going to just do this quote. Music, born of the primeval element of sound, captured by man and by him organized, has become his servant, his benefactor, and sometimes his master. And I just, it's just such a beautiful quote.
It is.
I mean, you've lived music your whole life.
My whole life.
I mean, it's, so I feel like
I was very blessed with that. Very blessed because it's just such a unique, wonderful part of my life that if I had, it's enriched me in every way.
Yes.
In every way.
Yes.
And I think, honestly, I'm lucky that in my older age now, I can't believe it, but it's there.
Yeah, it is there. You've been playing for me.
It's my older age. It's that my mind is still so active and alive. It's because of learning all these difficult music pieces.
Incredibly difficult.
It's so intricate and involved.
Yes, yeah.
It's not like you just knitting one stitch and one stitch.
No.
It's 100 stitches going at the same time.
Oh, yes, it is.
You've got to have major coordination between the two hands. And they're both reading different things in different clefs. I mean, it's major. And a lot of people don't get it because of that difficulty. The right hand's reading something else while the left hand's reading something else. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
No, but I feel as if you sort of... do you feel like you've, for want of better words, almost touched the soul of music? by your life.
Absolutely.
That's such a
Absolutely.
privilege, and to be able to, that's such a privilege.
Well, it's that if I play something and I really feel that music, that's so beautiful, I can just know what, say, Robert Schumann was thinking or what they were feeling. I can actually cry. It's so magnificent to me.
So
Or if I hear
amazing.
violin music, I love the violin.
Yes.
Never came right with it, but I love it.
Yes.
I can actually weep. It's so magnificent. It touches me in a very special place.
That's amazing. That's
I can
amazing.
actually weep.
That's amazing.
It moves me to tears.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm just very lucky with that.
Yes. No, I mean, the level of enrichment that gives for yourself personally, but then giving it out to others.
Giving it out to others, yes.
Is a magical thing in a way.
It is.
Music is quite magical.
It is magical.
Because it transports you immediately.
It does.
It's not like you need anything more. It's just as it happens.
It's there,
yeah.
but the other thing is it's probably the most abstract of all the arts.
It is abstract. It is
because
abstract.
With a painting, you've captured it. It's there, and it doesn't move, it doesn't change. It is telling something, it's always there, but that then, the emotion comes from the expressions on faces or the colours, but it's static. Music isn't static.
No, it's not.
It's moving all the time,
yes.
and that's what makes it so difficult. Because one day you'll play this like this, and the next day you'll play it something differently. So it's very difficult. And if you're giving a concert recital, you've got to be on your toes to get it correct, especially if you're playing with an orchestra or something like that.
Yes, definitely.
You know, you've got to have all your faculties going at the same time.
Yeah.
Your listening, your intellect, your fingers, your technique, your pedaling.
Yes.
It's like hectic.
Yes. Wow.
Because one slip and you've had it.
Yes. Yeah.
And today you can play beautifully, tomorrow you can play badly.
That's how it goes. That's how it goes. It's such a sensitive
It is. It depends on mood, it depends on all sorts of things.
No, for sure.
And also music moves. Music moves in time. I've always been fascinated with that.
It's fascinating.
It's never static.
Yes.
So as you're moving with playing, it's moving and the time is moving. It's going at the same
I've never thought of it like that.
Yes, music moves.
Wow.
It moves in time.
Yo, that's
if you
amazing.
played for half an hour has passed with time.
Yes.
But a painting, you can do it and you'll take time over it.
Yes.
It could take 6 months.
Yes.
But when it's done, it's static.
Yes.
It's there.
Yes. Ooh. So
That's
music's always moving.
It's always moving.
Wow.
It never sits still.
Wow. So it's, it almost represents the present moment in a strange sort of a way. Each note.
That's it.
If you're able to be present to that note at that time, it's just like.
Yeah, music is also very mathematical and very meticulous. If you're following something that's got so many beats in each section, you dare not make, unless it's written, unless it's wanted or intended.
With that big dot, the thing with the dot that gives you
the
freedom.
Pause.
Yes.
Yes, the pause.
Yes.
But you've got to be very meticulous about how you count. And it's amazing, but some people can't keep a steady beat. They can't go 1, 2, 3, 4. They'll do something else.
Yes.
You know, so it's tricky. People battle a lot with rhythm and with the reading of music.
And often people, music and maths, they get confused. Why do music and maths go together? But I can understand it perfectly well. I mean...
Well, explain it.
Well, no. I thought this was my interview. No. It's just that music is so incredibly mathematical. I mean, the beats in a bar, as you described, but it's
subdivides. It subdivides.
Minutiae of the little.
That's it. It makes fractions.
And the chords and the
yes, it does. That's harmony.
The ending of the chords that you end with, the different ways you can express chords.
Exactly.
I mean, it's harmony.
But the rhythm and the fractions.
Yes.
There's a half and a whole and a quarter and an eighth and a 16th and a 32nd, and you've got to be able to get that all in within that right timing.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is.
Yes.
It's tricky.
Yeah,
very tricky.
It is. Yeah.
Once you've got the idea of it, it's fine. But people don't get the idea. They don't understand that 4 semiquavers is twice as quick as 4 quavers, and so on and so on. It's tricky.
Yeah, I think it does help to have had to somehow be born musical, but I do think you can develop it. But I think we were both lucky to almost feel music.
Yes, to feel it first, and then
Yes,
have the
and then
ability
have the
to
discipline.
understand it
I
and
mean, you've
work,
gone deeper
work
than
it
me.
out.
Yeah. Well, Brenda, this has been such a enlightening conversation, and I hope that everyone who listens will also just be so grateful to you, like I am.
Thank you
for your time, because you really you are a master of music, and your art too is pretty masterful too to me, and we're very lucky to have listened to you. Thank you so
very, very
so
much
much.
indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.